Since it was founded in 1985 in response to a crippling famine in Africa, Comic Relief has supported projects for disadvantaged people in the UK and around the world through its own brand of fundraising with the whole nation.
When I was a kid, there was very little information about long-term aid in Africa, and there was hardly any information about charity work in this country.
National campaigns like Comic Relief are moving beyond just raising money and awareness to encourage people to take actions for change. This shift offers schools the potential to get much more out of engaging with NGOs and appeals.
Kids, somewhere in their brain now, have got this whole area about foreign aid and about helping people here that we didn't have back in the day.
It's about winning hearts and minds as well as raising money. And I think that can be inspirational. It's important to have role models that do things to make young people think that perhaps there's something I ought to do as well.
2 years on from Red Nose Day 2005, we examine the impact on secondary schools and their students of a deeper engagement with national initiatives such as Comic Relief.
Last Red Nose Day we had big hair and beyond. You know, the idea with that is, you know, pupils do dress up for Red Nose Day. Teachers dress up for Red Nose Day as well. You know, red wigs, red outfits, red dresses. The head of physics in a red dress is, you know, it's a fantastic thing. So we wanted to stimulate that, but we also wanted to sort of add a beyond bit in the sense that we wanted to get people to think that perhaps it is a bit of a journey. Actually, you're doing something that's much more exciting than just getting your students to laugh, and you're doing something much more exciting than just getting them to raise money. You're actually getting them to think about the world, and you're actually getting them to think about their place in it.
At Langdon School in East Ham, London, the teachers and students went beyond charity fundraising by taking a longer journey inside and outside the classroom through education and campaigning. The learning and experiences motivated the children at Langdon to develop empathy with the outside world, engage with big global issues, and even take their views to Downing Street. But like any secondary school, the Comic Relief experience started with the usual redness and fun.
I think as a head teacher, you're always just a little bit anxious, even though you know it's really important and it's great fun, and you know that it's for a really, really good cause.
The day-to-day running of a school can be heavily disrupted if people arrive to do a massive custard fest in the lower gym. And there's always that teacher who will grumble about, oh, but you know, they're out of my lesson.
The custard, that was messy, but fun.
We all sort of want to get involved. Everyone wants to do it, so we're like, oh, I hear that class is doing this, so then we want to do it, we want to do something better, we want to raise more money than they did.
There was lots of cake sales, there was some Beat the Teacher competitions, which are at sporting events in the sports hall.
Everyone was dressed up like with red noses or with silly wigs or whatever, and people always remember that day when like that teacher dressed up or something, and it was quite effective because you remember the funny side, but then you remember the serious side as well.
I'm always surprised and chuffed at just how many kids have just locked into this thing of helping to raise money for Comic Relief. They want to do things like, you know, twin the school with a school in Africa or in Malawi or wherever, because they saw that they could do that and they want to help, you know. The thing to engender in children is that there are people across the world just like you who don't have what you have, and wouldn't it be great to help?
What we're trying to do is to get young people to be really interested in what's going on in the rest of the world, to take an interest in other young people who don't have some of the opportunities that they do.
We've used Comic Relief's resources, in particular I'm talking about the Teacher's Toolkit that is supplied every year just before the fundraising activities begin. The resources themselves provide us with so much stimulus that in a way we have ourselves a ready to introduce curriculum.
There's not an opportunity to actually get food, water, schools in some of these places. They don't even have the chance to do that for themselves. That is what we call poverty.
We used some of the posters with the pictures of the young people from Ghana and Uganda and got them to do empathy and imagination-based activities, which also encourages pupils' skills of inquiry and communication, which is a main strand of citizenship. And the young people would sort of look at these pictures and sort of say, my name is this, I was born here, I haven't got this, I'm trying to do this.
What type of things could we therefore now do?
Could we send out, even just make a pen pal, so every child in the schools around England had a pen pal in Africa?
If we wanted to help like people on a larger scale, it's all about like raising awareness.
Any way you can make like the slightest change is still helpful. And I think if one local community does it, then the others will catch on. And then hopefully you get the national community doing it, and you can make a big difference.
It's just a bigger part of their citizenship activities, really. And it's about real citizenship. It's not about just learning things in books. It's about actually caring for others and being involved and taking responsibility for supporting other young people.
The heart of all our lessons is really about telling stories of the people that the money schools raise help. And we use those stories as almost the key element. And we build from those stories, giving teachers activities and ideas about how they can introduce the children we focus on to their students, help kids explore those young people's lives, understand the sort of similarities and differences, and out of that begin to understand some of the deeper issues behind it.
Her mother didn't go to school, her brother St. Pijit is about to drop out of school, and Margaret has never ever been inside a school, all because of a lack of money.
The classroom, for a while, was a trip to see what's going on somewhere else.
In 2005, Langdon was one of thousands of schools to take part in the Send My Friend to School challenge. Comic Relief, together with ActionAid, Oxfam and other partners, had asked school children to take a specific action for change on behalf of the 100 million children around the world who don't have access to education.
There's an interesting statistic, I think, if every girl completed primary education around the world, that would reduce HIV infections by 50%. You know, for me, that really shows how powerful education is as a tool. And we came up with a thing called the Send My Friend to School challenge, which we put in Red Nose Day, to represent a child who was missing out on education, and to send it to us and then help us deliver it to the G8 world leaders.
We've got involved particularly in Send My Friend to School campaign, which has been a really important one. There's been fun elements to it, but it's been one in which young people across the country have got involved, and we've really enjoyed being a part of that campaign.
I think it worked really well for a number of reasons. There were some good educational materials attached, so there were good workable lessons that students could do, but also during those lessons they were actually making a product, cutting out shapes of young people.
Every classroom, to an extent, was making buddies. They were even personalising them, and as they personalised them, the buddies themselves were as diverse as the students.
You'd sit in your form class with all your form, and then you would make buddies, so it gets everybody involved.
And each buddy represented a child who wasn't able to go to school.
And everybody knew that. They were all sort of given that information, so we all sort of knew what we were making them and why we were making them.
In 2005 we saw a slight other shift. Not only were we talking about fundraising, but it was campaigning as well. It was, you know, using your voice and sort of advocacy, speaking on behalf of others.
Underneath it was also very successful because young people have carried through those issues. You know, just looking at some of the subjects that they do in school, citizenship and humanities and in their English and all of these subjects, they've actually understood issues more, I think, and there's been more depth to what they've been doing. All of those things have had a lasting legacy. So it's not just about this, let's have fun for a day or for a couple of weeks. It's about let's understand these issues, let's do things that actually affect our lives and other young people's lives for a longer period of time.
It can be a huge motivational factor, Comic Relief, and I think for several reasons. One important one is that, yes, we're engaged with cognitive learning. There is reading, there's writing, and there's understanding involved. But I think the fact that we're taking part, either through fundraising or through campaigning, involves all pupils in slightly different ways. Often you'll have pupils in schools that don't get engaged with learning because they feel that they're perhaps not very academically able, and as a result they sort of retire hurt and don't make an effort. We're giving an alternative ways of learning, using, you know, a variety of different stimulus, and you're taking part, you're actually doing an action. We're getting young people directly involved in helping to change the lives of other young people. And this goes against that traditional view of young people as being separate. We're seeing them straight away as being part of the world, engaged with the world, and that they can change the world.
Their experience in 2005 led the students from Langdon to Downing Street and beyond. A journey that left a lasting legacy of globally aware young people wanting to take actions to change the world.
Can you tell us what you and the other world leaders are going to do this year at this year's G8 to help all children in the world get an education?
We just committed ourselves to, over the next 10 years, £8.5 billion.
World leaders can organise to give this massive amount of money. What can us kids in schools do? Obviously we can't, so it's like, what can we do? So we asked him that as well. And he was sort of saying that everybody should get involved. And that's where we come in. We can tell our friends, and our friends will tell some other friends, and they'll tell some people in a different school, and then it will just like spread like a chain reaction. 2005
was a very interesting year. You know, it was the year of Live 8. It was the year of Make Poverty history. The whole Live 8 Make Poverty thing was about justice, not charity. And that was about people acting as citizens to, you know, say it's not acceptable that a child dies every 3 minutes from poverty.
We took that to so many different levels. We had our young people write speeches that they gave at the UNICEF conference last year at the G8. The J8 Global Citizens Programme, where they wrote communiques about poverty in Africa. This year, 2 students of ours went to Mozambique with Nelson Mandela, and it was all spurred on by the Make Poverty history and Send My Friend to School campaigns.
We always like to think we've got future prime ministers, future politicians, you know, future charity aid workers in the school, which we probably have got, and you know, it's about them also learning at a very early age the responsibility of these things.
You're helping develop political literacy, and you know that has a long-term legacy. This is something that young people will take throughout their lives. They can get an awareness of how their lives have direct consequences on the lives of other people throughout the world, and through their own personal choices that they make on a daily basis, they can make a difference and try and change the world in small but significant ways.
It's about empowering young people to make change, even if they know they can't make change all the time. But it's the spirit of it. Young people know that sometimes it won't succeed, but it's about saying, but I did do that, and I will carry on, and one day I will change it.
It's about learning how to exist in the world and contributing. And I think that, you know, if you can have that quality in your school, that's a good thing.
What is the message that we should take home to Britain? And what should we as children do to ensure every child gets into school?
The message you should take back is that you can make a difference while you're at school.